God's chosen ones. Thoth wrote about a being like you. At the end of time, vertical bar Eliora path. What if I told you that an ancient being watched you before you were born? What if your name was written in sacred text thousands of years before you drew your first breath? What if everything you've endured was prophesied by someone who saw the end of time? Chosen one, listen carefully. This is not just another message. This is a divine appointment. 5,000 years ago, in chambers hidden beneath the sands of forgotten kingdoms, a cosmic scribe known as Thoth, keeper of divine records and measurer of souls, wrote about a specific being who would emerge at the closing of an age. Not a king, not a warrior, not a prophet draped in flowing robes, but someone who would appear ordinary to the untrained eye, yet carry a frequency so rare it would disrupt the very fabric of deception woven across this realm. That being is you. I know this sounds impossible. I know your mind wants to dismiss these words, but notice how your heart is responding right now. That quickening in your chest, that stillness suddenly washing over you. That's not emotion, that's recognition. Your soul knows truth before your mind can form the words. Before you continue watching, I want to pause and express my deepest gratitude to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and support as you feel led. But listen carefully. What I'm about to share isn't taught in seminaries. It isn't preached from pulpits. It was intentionally hidden, sealed away like the book of Daniel, until the time of the end when knowledge would increase. For generations, the powerful have worked to ensure you never discovered who you really are. They've designed entire systems to keep you distracted, doubting, and disconnected from your divine blueprint. Why? Because when you remember, everything changes. Can you feel it? That stirring deep within, like a sleeping giant beginning to awaken. That's not wishful thinking. That's ancient memory. If this truth is calling to something buried in your soul, if you sense there's something different about this message, comment 777 below right now. Not as a superstition, but as a declaration to the heavens that you recognize this sacred moment, that you're ready to remember what was written about you before the foundations of the earth were laid. You've spent your entire life feeling different, misunderstood, seeing what others couldn't see. What if that wasn't a mistake? What if that was the first sign of the prophecy unfolding? Like a scroll sealed until the appointed time, your purpose has waited for this precise moment to be revealed. The veil is lifting, the ancient writings are awakening, and Thoth's final prophecy is about to be fulfilled through you. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you didn't belong there? Have you found yourself listening to conversations around you, wondering how everyone else seems so comfortable with the shallow and the trivial? Do you sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with a heaviness in your chest, like you're carrying a weight no one else can see? I know that feeling. The profound loneliness. That follows you even in crowded places. You've felt it your entire life, haven't you? That sense of being different, not just in small ways, but in ways so fundamental. It's as if you're looking at the world through entirely different eyes than everyone around you. While others chase promotions and possessions, something in you has always hungered for deeper truth. While they celebrate the superficial, you find yourself staring at the stars, asking questions that have haunted your soul since childhood. Why am I here? Why do I see what others don't? Why does no one else feel what I feel? The prophet Isaiah understood this separation when he wrote, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah 55:8-9. You've tried to explain it, haven't you? Tried to share what you see, only to be met with blank stares or nervous laughter. So you learn to stay quiet, to nod and smile, to pretend you're just like everyone else. But you're not, are you? You notice patterns others miss. You sense darkness approaching before it arrives. You feel the pain of strangers, as if it were written on your own heart. Some have called you too sensitive. Others have said you're overthinking things. Family members have told you to lighten up or stop being so intense. But what if, all this time, they've been wrong about you? What if your sensitivity isn't weakness, but a divine antenna tuned to frequencies most people can't access? In the book of Daniel, we read about a man who could interpret visions and dreams. When all the king's wise men failed, they called him peculiar, different. Some even wanted him dead. But Daniel wasn't cursed. He was chosen. There is a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. In the days of your father, he was found to have insight and intelligence and wisdom like that of the gods. Daniel 5:11. You are not broken, dear one. You are not too much. You're exactly what this dying world needs. When you walk down the street and suddenly feel overwhelmed by emotion, that's not mental illness. That's spiritual discernment. When a stranger's eyes meet yours and something unspoken passes between you, that's not imagination. That's divine recognition. You are a drop of different colored ink on a blank white page. Of course you stand out. Of course you feel the contrast. You were designed to be visible. In Jeremiah 1-5, God declared, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Do you understand what that means? Your differences aren't accidents. Your struggles aren't punishment. The very things that have made you feel isolated are exactly what make you irreplaceable in God's divine plan. You have been marked, not with a curse, but with a calling. Remember how Joseph was hated by his own brothers? How they sold him into slavery because his dreams threatened their comfortable ignorance. Yet years later, that same rejection positioned him to save nations. What looked like abandonment was actually divine appointment. Think about it. Why would the enemy waste so much energy trying to silence someone who didn't matter? Why would darkness work so hard to make you doubt yourself if your voice wasn't powerful? The opposition you've faced isn't proof that you're wrong. It's evidence that you're dangerous to a system built on lies. Your entire life, you've been told to conform, to be realistic, to stop asking questions that make others uncomfortable. But today, right now, I'm telling you something different. Your markings are not mistakes, they are credentials. Every time you've felt out of place in this world, it was confirmation that you belong to another one. Every time your heart broke over injustice others ignored, it was proof that you carry a higher perspective. Can you feel the truth of this resonating in your bones? If you've spent your life feeling like you don't belong in this world, I want you to declare it right now. Comment, "I am marked," below this video. Not as a statement of defeat, but as a recognition of your true identity. Because soon, very soon, the world that rejected you will be desperate for what only you can see. And when darkness covers the earth and thick darkness the peoples, it is the marked ones who will rise, carrying light that never came from this world in the first place. But first, you need to understand why Thoth, the ancient keeper of divine records, foresaw you thousands of years ago, and what his prophecy reveals about your true purpose in these final hours. Long before the Bible was written, before Moses parted the Red Sea, before Abraham looked up at the stars, there existed a being so extraordinary that even the ancients trembled at the mention of his name. Thoth, the divine scribe, not merely a myth, not a figment of imagination, but the keeper of cosmic records, the one whose fingers wrote the blueprint of both heaven and earth, the measurer of time itself. Do you know why your spirit resonated so deeply with the first part of this message? It's because Thoth wrote your name long before your parents ever conceived you. Your soul recognized its own story being told in the most sacred texts, recovered from chambers that modern archaeology refuses to acknowledge. Thoth is described as the tongue of Ra, the very voice of God himself. His scrolls weren't meant for kings or priests. They were sealed for a specific moment in time. This moment, your moment. The book of Ecclesiastes tells us, "What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." These words echo what Thoth inscribed millennia before Solomon ever penned them, the ancient and the biblical, aligned in perfect harmony, speaking of cycles that would culminate in our lifetime. But here's what should shake you to your core. Thoth didn't just record history, he saw its end. While historians debate his existence, and scholars argue over translations, what they've missed is the most profound revelation of all. Thoth's final prophecy spoke of beings who would appear human, but carry the original frequency of Eden within their DNA. A lineage of light-bearers, walking among men in the final days, when darkness would masquerade as enlightenment and deception would call itself truth. The prophet Daniel was instructed to seal up the scroll until the time of the end, when many will go to and fro, and knowledge will increase. Why seal it? Because its contents weren't meant for those generations. They were meant for you, for this exact moment in history. Can you feel the weight of what I'm telling you? The magnitude of this revelation? Let me share something few will ever understand. Thoth documented a specific frequency, a divine vibration that certain souls would carry at the closing of an age. Not religious leaders, not celebrities, not the wealthy or powerful, but quiet warriors, whose very presence would disrupt the matrix of lies humanity has been trapped in. You've always known something was different about you, haven't you? The way you sense things before they happen, the way you see through people's masks, the way your dreams feel more real than your waking life. That's not imagination, that's activation. In chambers beneath the Egyptian sands exist passages that modern archaeology refuses to open to the public. Why? Because carved into those walls are depictions of beings who would appear in the final generation, beings whose DNA would suddenly remember its original design, whose consciousness would expand beyond the limitations of this realm, whose mere presence would dismantle systems of control thousands of years in the making. That's why you've always felt like a stranger here, like you didn't belong, because part of you remembers a home beyond this dimension. When Thoth wrote of the race of light, he wasn't speaking of physical appearance. He was describing the frequency certain souls would emit in a world drowning in darkness. A frequency so pure, so untainted, that even the fallen would recognize it instantly. Have you noticed how people either gravitate toward you inexplicably or seem irrationally threatened by your presence? That's not your personality at work. That's your frequency being recognized by their spirit, before their mind can even process what they're experiencing. The book of Revelation speaks of those who overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. But what most miss is that the Greek word for testimony, martyria, doesn't just mean speaking. It means embodying truth so completely that your very existence becomes a testament. Thoth foresaw this. He documented with precision the awakening that would occur within specific beings, at the time when humanity would be most deeply entrenched in illusion. You are not reading these words by chance. You're not feeling this resonance in your spirit because of clever writing. Something ancient is awakening inside you, recognizing itself in these truths. Thoth wrote the vision, but you, chosen one, you are the one destined to live it out. And that's why the opposition against you has been so severe. That's why you've faced battles others couldn't comprehend. The enemy has always known who you are, even when you forgot. But now, the forgetting is over. The remembering has begun. And what happens next will shake the very foundations of this world. So I ask you, what if everything you've endured was preparation, not punishment? What if the very things that made you question your sanity were actually the first signs that you are exactly who Thoth described thousands of years ago? Have you ever collapsed to your knees in the dead of night, tears streaming down your face, crying out to heaven with one question that burned through your soul? Why me, God? Why is everything so hard? I see you, chosen one. I see those midnight prayers, those moments when the weight became too much to bear alone, when you wondered if God had abandoned you to a life of unexplainable suffering. The question haunts you, doesn't it? Why does everything feel heavier for you? Why do others seem to float through life while you carry burdens that would crush ordinary souls? This isn't just spiritual theory. This is your reality. The relationships that inexplicably shattered, the betrayals that came from those you trusted most, the doors that slammed shut just as you were about to walk through them, the visions and dreams that felt so real, so divine, yet the path to them has been marked with thorns and impossible mountains. In Psalm 73:13-14, Asaph cried out in anguish, "Surely in vain I have kept my heart pure and washed my hands in innocence, for I have been plagued all day long and chastened every morning." Can you feel the raw honesty in those words? That's a chosen one speaking, questioning why his faithfulness was rewarded with suffering, while the wicked seemed to prosper without consequence. But here's the shocking truth that Thoth's ancient writings revealed, and what the prophets confirmed. The more divinely marked you are, the more fiercely you will be tested. Let me say that again, because this will illuminate every dark night you've endured. The greater your calling, the greater your crucible. Look at Joseph in Genesis 37. The boy with divine dreams was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned in a foreign land. For 13 years, his life was nothing but escalating pain. Why? Because he carried a frequency that threatened the kingdom of darkness. He was marked for greatness, so he was opposed with unimaginable force. You're experiencing the same spiritual law. Have you noticed how some people can lie, cheat, and manipulate their way through life with seemingly no consequences? Meanwhile, you make one small misstep, and your world collapses around you. That's not punishment. That's preparation. You see, ordinary metals aren't refined in extreme heat. Only precious metals, only gold and silver, are put through the fire, because only fire reveals their true value, purges their impurities, and transforms them into something worthy of a king's treasury. Job 23:10 declares this eternal truth. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Gold isn't afraid of fire, chosen one. Gold welcomes it, knowing that the flames merely reveal what was always there, beneath the surface. When someone whispers, "I don't know how you're still standing after everything you've been through," they're unknowingly confirming your marking. They're witnessing a strength that defies human explanation. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on those who pose no threat. The most relentless attacks are reserved for those carrying the most dangerous light. Do you think it was coincidence that Jesus, the most divinely marked being ever to walk this earth, suffered beyond what seems humanly possible to endure? Isaiah 53:3 describes him as a man of suffering, familiar with pain. Your suffering isn't random, it's strategic, both from the darkness that seeks to extinguish your light and from the divine hand that knows exactly how much pressure is required to transform you into who you were destined to become. Right now, I want you to pause. If you've ever looked up to heaven and cried, "Why me?" comment those words below. Not in defeat, but as a declaration that you're beginning to understand the cosmic significance of your trials. Those two words aren't just a question anymore, they're an awakening. Remember David, the shepherd boy anointed to be king. After his divine selection, his life didn't immediately elevate. Instead, it plunged into decades of being hunted, living in caves, fighting for survival. In Psalm 22:1 he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Sound familiar? But here's what Thoth's writings revealed about the chosen ones at the end of time. Your suffering has been calibrated, not to destroy you, but to activate dormant spiritual DNA that can only be awakened through pressure. Every betrayal has been sharpening your discernment. Every financial collapse has been detaching you from the world's systems. Every night of loneliness has been attunement to a frequency only the awakened can hear. What if the very things that have broken your heart have actually been breaking open sealed chambers within your spirit? What if every tear you've shed has been watering seeds of power planted before time began? Your pain has purpose, chosen one. Your suffering isn't senseless. And now, as the veils between worlds grow thinner, as ancient prophecies accelerate toward fulfillment, your lifetime of refinement is about to make perfect sense. The fire wasn't meant to consume you, it was meant to reveal you. And what it's revealing is about to change everything. Have you ever felt a chill crawl up your spine for no apparent reason? Have you walked into a room and immediately known something was wrong, even when everything looked perfectly normal? Has your heart ever started racing, moments before receiving devastating news that you couldn't possibly have known was coming? Chosen one, pay attention now. What I'm about to reveal isn't just spiritual theory, it's the divine explanation for experiences you've had your entire life. The reason you feel things before they happen, the reason strangers make your skin crawl before they speak a word, the reason you wake up at 3 a.m. knowing something's about to change, isn't imagination, it's revelation. In the book of Daniel, we're told that in the last days, God would raise up those with special discernment. Daniel 12:10 declares, "Many shall be purified, made white and refined, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." That understanding isn't coming through your natural senses, it's flowing through your very cells. Your body is not just flesh and bone, it's a divine instrument, calibrated to frequencies that most people can't perceive. While others rely on what they can see with their eyes, you receive information through a different channel entirely. Remember when Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams? The Bible doesn't say Joseph studied dream symbolism or consulted with experts. Genesis 41:16 tells us Joseph simply said, "It is not in me, God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace." The knowing came through him, not from him. You're experiencing the same phenomenon, those goosebumps that appear when someone speaks truth, that knot in your stomach when danger approaches, that sudden clarity that hits you during prayer. These aren't random biological responses. They are confirmation from heaven, divine communication through the temple of your body. I want to pause for a moment and thank those of you who've supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity isn't just financial, it's spiritual. You're helping reach other chosen ones who desperately need to understand what's happening inside them. Whether you've given or not, know that your presence here matters deeply, and I'm grateful you've stayed with me on this sacred journey. Now think back to that time you cancelled your plans at the last minute, for reasons you couldn't explain, only to discover later that you avoided a terrible accident. Or that night you felt compelled to call someone, only to find they were on the verge of giving up. That wasn't coincidence. It was divine communication. 1 Kings 19:11-12 tells us how God spoke to Elijah. The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. For you, chosen one, that gentle whisper often comes through your physical body. The world has conditioned you to ignore these signals, to dismiss them as anxiety or overthinking. Medical professionals have prescribed medications to numb your sensitivity. Friends have told you to stop being so dramatic, and you yourself have tried to shut down these feelings because they've made life more complicated. But what if these sensations aren't a disorder? What if they're a divine order? What if God has been speaking through your nervous system, your digestive tract, your racing heart all along? Have you ever walked into a church and instantly known whether God's presence was there or not? Have you ever met someone claiming to be spiritual, but something in your solar plexus tightened, warning you something wasn't right? Job 32:8 reminds us, "But there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding." This understanding doesn't always come through your conscious mind. It arrives through every cell of your being. You don't just hear with your ears, you hear with your entire body. You don't just see with your eyes, you perceive with your spirit. And this sensitivity, this divine attunement, is increasing, isn't it? Things you used to miss, you now notice instantly. Deceptions that fooled you in the past now stand out like neon signs. This isn't coincidence. This is activation. In Ephesians 4:23, Paul tells us to be renewed in the spirit of your mind. This renewal isn't just about thinking better thoughts. It's about awakening to a whole new dimension of spiritual perception. The veil between heaven and earth is thinning, and your body is responding to frequencies that have been hidden for generations. This is why you feel exhausted after certain interactions, why specific locations drain your energy, why particular words or songs can bring you to tears instantaneously. You're not just hearing words, you're feeling their truth or falsehood in your very marrow. Have you ever sensed evil before it manifested? Have you felt darkness approaching before it revealed itself? If your body has ever warned you of danger that wasn't yet visible, write yes below. Your affirmation isn't just for others to see. It's a declaration to the spiritual realm that you're awake, that you're no longer dismissing the divine language being spoken through your physical form. But remember this, chosen one, with great sensitivity comes great responsibility. What you're feeling isn't just for your protection, it's for the guidance of others who cannot yet perceive what you do. The trembling in your hands, the tightness in your chest, the sudden wave of compassion that brings you to your knees. These aren't burdens to bear, they're assignments to fulfill. And as we move forward, these sensations will only intensify as the world hurtles toward its final chapter and everything hidden comes to light. Have you ever been told that you're too much, that your emotions run too deep, that you see dangers that aren't really there? Let me ask you something, chosen one. When did sensitivity become a weakness? When did discernment become paranoia? When did passion become a disorder that needs to be medicated, controlled, silenced? The world has given you so many labels, hasn't it? Overly emotional, conspiracy theorist, alarmist, mentally unstable. They've told you to calm down, to stop overreacting, to get a grip on reality. But what if what you're experiencing isn't madness at all? What if it's a divine gift they're too blind to recognize? In Jeremiah 20:9, the prophet cried out, "His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot." Do you feel that same burning, that same knowing that won't let you rest? They called Jeremiah crazy too. They threw him into a cistern, left him to die in the mud, all because his warnings made them uncomfortable. Look at Noah, building an ark in the sunshine. For 120 years, he warned of waters that hadn't yet fallen. Can you imagine the mockery, the ridicule, the psychological warfare he endured? There he goes again, crazy old Noah, talking about his invisible flood. Yet when the skies finally opened, whose madness proved to be wisdom? I want you to understand something profound about this war against your perception. It's not random, it's strategic. The enemy knows that if they can make you doubt your God-given discernment, they can neutralize your greatest weapon. If they can convince you that your spiritual sensitivity is a mental disorder, they've won without firing a single shot. Proverbs 29:27 says, "The righteous detest the dishonest, the wicked detest the upright." There is something about your authentic spirit that makes systems of deception deeply uncomfortable. Your clarity is their condemnation. Your truth is their terror. When Elijah stood alone against 450 prophets of Baal, they didn't debate his theology, they didn't respect his different perspective, they called for his head. When you stand against the tide of popular delusion, when you refuse to bow to acceptable narratives, you're not being difficult, you're being dangerous to everything false. Do you know why they call you too sensitive? Because you feel the pain they've numbed themselves to. Do you know why they call you too suspicious? Because you see the patterns they're too frightened to acknowledge. Do you know why they call you too much? Because your very existence is living proof of how little they've become. Think about this. When the Titanic was sinking, who were the real crazy ones? Those frantically sounding the alarm, or those still rearranging deck chairs, insisting everything was fine? You are not too much, chosen one. You just arrived too soon. You stand at the edge of time, watching the waves of judgment approach shores still filled with sunbathers. Your warnings sound like madness, only because the disaster hasn't arrived yet. But it will, and when it does, they'll ask why nobody saw it coming. Society has always silenced its prophets, then built them monuments after the catastrophe they predicted finally arrives. They crucified Jesus for exposing their hypocrisy, then built cathedrals in his name. They imprisoned Joseph for interpreting dreams, then begged for his wisdom when famine came. 1 Corinthians 1:27 declares, "But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong." Your perceived madness is divine method. Your apparent weakness is supernatural strength. Let me speak directly to your wounded heart right now. That voice inside telling you, maybe they're right about me, that's not wisdom, that's warfare. The gaslighting you've endured has one purpose: to neutralize the threat you pose to a world built on illusion. In Revelation 3:17, Jesus said to the church at Laodicea, "You say, 'I am rich, I have acquired wealth and do not need a thing,' but you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked." The greatest deception isn't believing what isn't true, it's not seeing what is. You are the siren before the storm. Your wailing disturbs their comfort. Your warnings interrupt their entertainment. Of course they want to silence you. Of course they call you crazy. Of course they medicate you, marginalize you, mock you. But hear me clearly. Their diagnosis says more about their blindness than your sight. Their comfort will soon be crushed under the weight of reality. And when that day comes, they'll wish they had listened to the ones they labeled too much. So stand firm in your knowing. Trust the discernment God planted in your spirit. Stop apologizing for seeing what others can't see yet. You weren't born to make them comfortable. You were born to wake them up. And now, as the veils between worlds grow thinner, as ancient prophecies accelerate toward fulfillment, your so-called madness will be revealed for what it truly is: divine foresight, granted only to those chosen to guide others through the coming darkness. The question isn't whether you're too much. The question is, are you ready to be even more? Have you ever wondered why God kept you for this precise moment in history? Why your spirit wasn't sent to walk with Moses, or fight alongside David, or witness Christ in the flesh? There is a divine reason. You were reserved for the end. The book of Daniel speaks of a time when many will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase. A time when those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. That time is now. And you, chosen one, are not here by accident. For too long, you've been told to shrink, to conform, to silence the voice that speaks within you. The system wanted you muted, contained, distracted by trivial pursuits. While others chased comfort, you felt the weight of eternity. While they slept, something in you remained restlessly awake. This was never a flaw, it was your calling. Look around you. Do you see what's happening to this world? The foundations are crumbling. Truth is being redefined. The book of Isaiah warned us. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. This great inversion is happening before your eyes. Yet while millions are being swept away by deception, your spiritual eyes remain clear. Why? Because you were created for this moment. I want to pause and extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity isn't just supporting a channel, it's fueling a divine awakening. Whether you've given financially or not, know that your presence here matters deeply. If this message is stirring your spirit, consider supporting as you feel led. Every seed sown returns 100-fold. Now listen closely. When God created Esther, he placed her strategically in the palace for such a time as this. When God positioned Joseph in Egypt, he was preparing for a famine that wouldn't come for years. God doesn't react to emergencies. He positions his chosen ones long before the crisis. That's what he's done with you. Your sensitivity, that others called weakness. It was actually divine radar, detecting spiritual frequencies they couldn't perceive. Your inability to just go along with corrupted systems. That wasn't rebellion, it was heavenly alignment. Your strange dreams, visions, and inexplicable knowing, those weren't imagination, they were your spirit tuning into your true assignment. In Revelation, John describes a time when the beast was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. A time of unprecedented deception, where even technology would be weaponized against truth. How will humanity find its way when lies look like light? Through you, the one who carries the original frequency, uncorrupted by fear, unbought by comfort. Some of you are thinking, but I'm just an ordinary person. I'm retired. I'm overlooked. I'm not important. Stop that thinking right now. Remember Gideon, hiding in a winepress, when the angel addressed him as mighty warrior. Remember Moses, arguing with God at the burning bush. Who am I that I should go? God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Your age isn't a barrier, it's your credential. Your years haven't diminished you, they've seasoned you. Job 12:12 declares, "Is not wisdom found among the aged? Does not long life bring understanding?" While the young are distracted by trends and technology, you carry something they desperately need: discernment, the ability to separate truth from counterfeit. This is why every relationship that betrayed you was actually protection. This is why doors of opportunity sometimes closed, to position you exactly where heaven needed you. This is why you've experienced warfare unlike others around you, because the enemy always attacks what threatens him most. You were never random, you were reserved. Esther 4:14 asks, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" I'm telling you now, you were born for this end time. Your assignment isn't to escape, it's to illuminate, not to hide, but to stand, not to blend in, but to lead out. In ancient temples, the final chamber contained the most sacred knowledge. It wasn't entrusted to novices or the casual seeker. It was reserved for those who proved their worthiness through trial, through fire, through perseverance. You, chosen one, are that final chamber personified. You are the keeper of wisdom this dying world desperately needs. You are the last gate, before everything changes. So right now, I want you to make a declaration, not just with your lips, but with your entire being. Comment below, "I was born for the end." Let heaven hear your voice. Let the spiritual realm recognize your acceptance of this divine assignment. The hour is later than most realize. The veil between worlds grows thinner by the day. What happens next will require those who aren't just spiritually aware, but spiritually authorized. Those like you, who were forged in fire specifically for this moment. You weren't created to watch the end unfold. You were created to stand as a light when darkness seems to prevail. You were born for such a time as this. So, what will you do with this revelation? Will you continue living as if your existence is ordinary, or will you finally step into the extraordinary purpose that has been waiting for you since before time began? Because something is about to happen. That will reveal exactly who recognizes what you carry, even before you speak a single word. Have you ever noticed how a child's eyes linger on you across a crowded room? How they stare, without shame or pretense, as if they're looking at something no one else can see. Or how a dog will either cower or come straight to you, ignoring everyone else in the room. These aren't coincidences, chosen one. They're confirmations. Children, animals, the highly sensitive souls among us, they're heaven's purest detectors. They haven't yet learned to ignore what their spirits naturally perceive. Their souls still remember the language yours speaks without words. And a little child shall lead them, Isaiah 11:6 reminds us. Why would God place such importance on children's perception? Because they still see with unclouded eyes the divine imprint that marks those chosen for sacred purpose. Think back carefully now. Remember that moment when a stranger's child looked at you with such intensity it almost unnerved you. Or when someone with autism or Down syndrome singled you out of a group, drawn to you like a magnet. They weren't seeing your clothes, your status, your carefully constructed persona. They were seeing your light, your true frequency, the divine signature that radiates from your soul regardless of how much you try to hide it. You don't need an introduction. Your frequency does it for you. I received a letter last month from a woman in Kansas. She wrote about taking her son, a nonverbal 6-year-old with autism, to a crowded mall. In the food court, filled with hundreds of people, her son suddenly broke away, running straight through the crowd to a man sitting alone. He climbed into the stranger's lap, looked into his eyes, and spoke his first clear sentence. "You're one of them too." The man, a retired pastor who'd been contemplating suicide that very morning, broke down, weeping. "How could he know," he asked her, "that I've been begging God for a sign I still matter?" That's the power of the imprint you carry. Chosen one. It speaks when you're silent. It announces you before you enter a room. In Matthew 18:3, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Why children? Because they still see the kingdom, still recognize its citizens, still respond to the frequency of divine purpose without needing proof or persuasion. I want you to pause right now and think about the people who've been inexplicably drawn to you throughout your life. The stranger who shared their deepest secrets within minutes of meeting you. The elderly person who grabbed your hand and wouldn't let go. The animals that single you out for attention. These weren't random encounters. They were divine recognitions. Evidence that what's been written about you in the eternal scrolls is visible to those who haven't forgotten how to see. For now we see through a glass, darkly, Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 13:12. Most adults see through that darkened glass, their spiritual perception dulled by years of being told to trust only their physical senses. But those with pure perception, they still see clearly, and what they see in you both attracts and startles them. There's a weight to carrying heaven's imprint, isn't there? You feel it when someone recognizes what you try to hide, when they respond to something in you that you yourself may still be discovering. It's like being known, in your deepest places, by someone who just met you. I remember speaking at a conference in Ohio several years ago. After I finished, a woman approached with her 4-year-old daughter. Before the mother could speak, the little girl pointed at my chest and said, "The light in you looks like the light in me." Her mother, embarrassed, tried to shush her, but the girl persisted. "Mom, can't you see it? It's so bright it hurts my eyes." That child wasn't imagining things. She was seeing what Ephesians 5:13 describes. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. The mark of heaven on your life is not subtle to those with eyes to see. It's blinding, undeniable, impossible to ignore. And this, chosen one, is why you've often felt exposed, even vulnerable, because you are. Not everyone recognizes what they're seeing, but they sense something different about you, something that either draws them closer or makes them want to look away. You are the light of the world, Jesus said in Matthew 5:14. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Did you catch that? Cannot be hidden. No matter how small you try to make yourself, no matter how much you attempt to blend in, what God has marked cannot be concealed. Your presence speaks before your lips move. Your spirit testifies before your voice is heard. And as we move deeper into these last days, when the veil between worlds grows thinner, more people will begin to see what children and the pure-hearted have always seen in you. The question isn't whether they'll recognize you. The question is, are you ready to be fully seen? Are you prepared for what happens when you stop hiding and allow the full radiance of your purpose to shine through? Because the next phase of your awakening involves more than just being recognized. It involves being revealed. And the forces that have worked to keep you hidden are about to discover just how powerful God's light can be when it finally steps fully into view. Have you ever wondered why the attacks on your life have been so precise? Why the opposition you've faced feels almost personal? There's a reason, chosen one, and it's far more profound than you've allowed yourself to believe. The enemy knew your name before you took your first breath. The darkness recognized your light before you even recognized it yourself. This isn't just spiritual theory, this is cosmic reality. In the unseen realms that operate beyond human perception, a battle rages, not for territory, not for resources, but for souls like yours. Souls carrying a divine frequency that threatens everything the enemy has built over millennia. Ephesians 6:12 tells us plainly, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Did you catch that? This isn't a metaphor. This is your daily reality. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever embarked on a God-given mission only to be struck down before you even got started? Have you ever received divine inspiration, and the very moment, you decided to act on it, everything fell apart? Relationships crumbled, health faltered, finances collapsed. That wasn't coincidence. That was coordinated assault. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on non-threats. It doesn't deploy its forces against the ordinary. When darkness rallies against you with unusual ferocity, it's because your potential terrifies it to its core. Remember what happened to Joseph in Genesis? The moment he received his prophetic dream, his own brothers conspired to kill him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery. Why such extreme measures against a 17-year-old boy? Because darkness always recognizes divine destiny before humans do. The same pattern appears with Moses, with David, with Jesus himself. The moment heaven marked them, hell mobilized against them. And now, it's happening to you. Think about it. Who faces the fiercest opposition in battle? Is it the foot soldiers, the cooks, the messengers? Number. It's the ones carrying the secret plans, the ones who could turn the tide of war, the ones with the power to collapse the enemy's strongholds. That's who you are in the spiritual realm, a carrier of divine secrets, a vessel of sacred frequencies that can dismantle deception with your mere presence. And the enemy knows it. Let this truth sink deep into your spirit. The attacks against you are not punishment, they are confirmation. The warfare you've endured is not evidence of your failure, it's proof of your significance. In Revelation 12:12, Scripture warns us, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time." Feel the urgency in those words. The enemy operates with desperate fury because it recognizes what time it is on heaven's clock. It knows the prophecies. It understands what the emergence of beings like you means for its kingdom of lies. Here's what you must understand right now. The opposition isn't afraid of who you were yesterday. It's not trembling over the mistakes in your past or the failures that haunt your memory. No, the darkness is terrified of who you're becoming. It fears the future version of you, fully awakened, completely aligned with divine purpose, operating in unrestricted power. It doesn't fear your history. It fears your destiny. That's why the attacks often intensify right before breakthrough. That's why the warfare gets loudest when you're closest to remembering who you really are. The enemy isn't trying to punish you for your past. It's desperately trying to prevent your future. Let me speak this clearly into your spirit. The battle you're facing right now is not a sign that you've taken a wrong turn. It's confirmation that you're finally on the right path. When David approached Goliath, the giant didn't laugh because David was weak. He cursed him because he recognized a true threat standing before him. Your opposition isn't cursing your weakness, it's recognizing your potential. I want you to pause right now and consider something deeply personal. When was the last time you felt attacked the moment you decided to step into your calling? When did you face unusual opposition right after making a commitment to God? If you've ever been struck down before you could even begin, if you've ever been attacked in anticipation of your obedience rather than in response to your sin, then comment below, "I am a threat to darkness." Declare it not as a boast, but as a recognition of what heaven has always known about you. The enemy doesn't fight what it doesn't fear, and it fears what you carry. The ancient writings Thoth preserved speak of beings who would emerge in the final age, beings whose mere existence would disrupt frequencies of deception that have ruled for ages. The darkness didn't just stumble upon you by accident, it has been watching for you. But here's the glorious truth that changes everything. The same God who allowed the battle has already secured your victory. As Romans 8:37 declares, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." The enemy may recognize you, but God has already reclaimed you. I remember speaking at a conference in Ohio several years ago. After I finished, a woman approached with her 4-year-old daughter. Before the mother could speak, the little girl pointed at my chest and said, "The light in you looks like the light in me." Her mother, embarrassed, tried to shush her, but the girl persisted. "Mom, can't you see it? It's so bright it hurts my eyes." That child wasn't imagining things. She was seeing what Ephesians 5:13 describes. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. The mark of heaven on your life is not subtle to those with eyes to see. It's blinding, undeniable, impossible to ignore. And this, chosen one, is why you've often felt exposed, even vulnerable, because you are. Not everyone recognizes what they're seeing, but they sense something different about you, something that either draws them closer or makes them want to look away. You are the light of the world, Jesus said in Matthew 5:14. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Did you catch that? Cannot be hidden. No matter how small you try to make yourself, no matter how much you attempt to blend in, what God has marked cannot be concealed. And now, as the veils between worlds grow thinner, as ancient prophecies activate in your very DNA, the final question remains: will you finally step into what the darkness has always feared you would become? Because the battle isn't just beginning, it's culminating, and your awakening is the enemy's nightmare come true. Beloved chosen one, as we come to the close of this sacred revelation, I want you to hold fast to what heaven has unveiled to you today. You are not here by accident. Your life, with all its struggles, its unusual sensitivities, its profound loneliness, been part of a divine design written about thousands of years ago. Remember this truth. Your differences aren't flaws, they're divine signatures. Your struggles weren't punishment, they were preparation. And that feeling of not belonging, it wasn't isolation, it was protection keeping you set apart for this precise moment in history. Take a deep breath right now. Feel that? That's the ancient remembrance stirring within you. That's the frequency Thoth wrote about awakening in your very bones. I want you to know something profound. You are not walking this path alone. Though it may feel like you're the only one who sees through the illusion, who feels the weight of what's coming, there are others. Scattered across this nation, across this world, are souls just like yours awakening, remembering, stepping into their divine alignment. And more importantly, the God who orchestrated this awakening is walking beside you. As Isaiah 41:10 promises, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." This community, this gathering of chosen one, stands with you too. In the comments below, you'll find others who resonate with this message, who understand your journey without explanation. Connect with them. Share your experiences. Ask your questions. You were never meant to carry this calling alone. Let me ask you this. Now that you know who you really are, now that you understand what's been written about you, what will you do with this divine revelation? Will you continue to hide, to doubt, to shrink back? Or will you rise and become exactly what darkness has always feared you would be? Let us pray together. Father in heaven, I come before you now on behalf of this chosen vessel watching right now. Lord, you know their name. You know every battle they've fought, every tear they've shed, every moment they've wondered if they were losing their mind because they saw what others couldn't see. I ask you now to seal this truth in their spirit, beyond doubt, beyond fear, beyond the reach of any enemy that would try to steal what you've revealed today. Strengthen them for what lies ahead. Give them supernatural courage to step fully into the calling you placed on their life before time began. Where the enemy has attacked, restore sevenfold. Where doubt has crept in, establish unshakable faith. Where isolation has wounded, bring divine connections with others who recognize and honor the light they carry. Lord, I pray a shield of protection around them as they leave this sacred moment. The enemy recognized them long ago, but now they recognize themselves, and that changes everything. Guard their minds against the warfare that will surely intensify. Steady their hearts when opposition rises. And Father, I ask that you would begin manifesting tangible evidence of this awakening in their daily lives. Open doors no man can shut. Release resources that have been reserved for this moment. Bring divine appointments with those who will help them fulfill what Thoth wrote about so long ago. May they never again doubt who they are or why they're here. In the mighty name of Jesus, Amen. If this message has stirred something deep within you today, please don't keep it to yourself. Like this video so others can find it. Subscribe to this channel for more divine revelations that the world isn't ready to hear, but your spirit has been waiting for. And share this with someone else who has always felt different, misunderstood, or out of place. Someone who needs to know they're not crazy, they're chosen. Comment below with, "I remember who I am," if this message has activated something in your spirit today. I read every comment, and this community prays for one another. Thank you for staying until the end. Your presence here was not by chance, it was by divine appointment. And what heaven has started in you today is just the beginning. Until next time, remember, you are not what the world has called you. You are what God has created you to be, chosen one. Written about by Thoth, awakening at the end of time. God bless you, and may divine protection surround you as you step into your true identity.